Have you heard of sex trafficking? I'm sure you have. Do you know that this is going on among the seniors as well? Stick around for the next episode of Senior Care Made Simple podcast.
Welcome to Senior Care Made Simple, an elder care podcast, your guide to navigating home health care with confidence. Hosted by Andrea Albertini, founder and CEO of Horizon Care Services, an industry leader in private duty home care in South Florida. To learn more, visit horizoncareservices.com.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I am Andrea Albertini, your host for Senior Care Made Simple podcast. Hello, Doris.
Hello there.
So today we have a very special guest, Audra Doody. So today you guys are going to probably see me fire up. This is one of the topics that I have talked about in the past. And it really aggravates me, upsets me to a point that sometimes, I just don't want to hear about it anymore. We all know that unfortunately our seniors gets very vulnerable when they are getting older and they're getting frail. And a lot of people prey on them. So today we have an amazing guest, and I'm so excited. She has a company called Safe Exit Initiative, and I'm going to let her talk to you guys about what it is, what she's doing to protect and help some of our seniors. So Audrey, please share with us everything and anything that our listeners would probably love to hear it.
Yeah. Thank you, Andrea and Doris, for having me. First off, I really appreciate it. Again, my name's Audra Doody. I'm the co-CEO of Safe Exit Initiative. We have 3 different locations. We started in Worcester, Massachusetts in 2016. And since then, we have expanded to Baltimore as of 2024. And in 2026, we just expanded to Palm Beach in Florida, our Waypoint program, which is a community case management. It's more peer mentorship, people with lived experience, supporting people that have experienced any form of the sex trade, whether that's trafficking, exploitation, prostitution, whatever you want to call it. We started in Worcester again in 2016. I am a survivor myself of human trafficking and exploitation. I was first exploited when I was barely 18 at my first job. My manager kind of coerced me into it. And before I knew what I was in for, I was in over my head. I didn't know how to talk about it. I didn't know how to explain what happened to me. I'm 18 years old. How can I be a normal teenager when I just experienced something so traumatic? Really, I'll never forget that first date I ever went on. I was thinking I was going to be like Pretty Woman. And, I had a rough childhood, just to say the least. And my mom instilled some really bad values, like thinking that my body is my only worth, to marry rich, to never really have my own opinions or my own identity, to always just try to find a man that's going to take care of me. So when my boss asked me if I wanted to do, make some extra money, whatever, I was like, oh, this is where I'm going to find my Richard Gere. This is how I'm going to get out. I'm going to get saved. I'm going to get rescued. Well, that didn't happen. And unfortunately, from there, that led me to being trafficked and exploited up until I was 29. I finally got out. And I met another survivor leader doing this work in Boston, Massachusetts. And she was the first person to ever really believe in me, to tell me that I was worth more than I was giving myself, that I could do whatever I wanted. I was like, I want to do the work you're doing. And she's like, you can. And nobody ever told me I could do something. Even as a young kid, I was always labeled as the problem child. She had behavioral issues. I was acting out. Nobody asked what was going on at home. Nobody asked if I was safe, if I was okay, if there was any abuse. It was just pushed to the side. You're a problem. I'm 40 years old now, so it was just a different time back then. We weren't really educating our youth or talking about certain things. So, times have changed, which is nice. But, unfortunately for people in my age group, it was a different time growing up. So I got out when I was 29. I moved to Worcester, Massachusetts. My dad's family was from here. I thought it would be good to reconnect with some of my cousins that I hadn't seen in a while. And I got connected to another survivor who was doing the work. And I just went head first in. I was like, this is what I need to do. I need to help other women like myself. I never knew how to talk about being trafficked or exploited or any of that. I knew I had issues with my mental health. I knew I had trauma. I knew I had substance use disorder. I knew I had all those, and I knew how to talk about those very easily. But the trafficking, for me, the stigma and the shame that it carried, and especially if you're an adult, people think that you're a consenting adult. And when you're homeless, when you're suffering with substance use or untreated mental health, like what real choice do you have in the matter? It's more of survival. And so that's how Safe Exit was really born. It was just trying to create a safe space for people that had experienced similar situations, however you wanted to like self-identify. Because even when I first got out, I didn't want to say I was a trafficking survivor. I felt like that painted such like a specific picture. And yes, I was working for traffickers. I was a victim on 2 federal cases, everything. But for me, the label of it just, a lot of people think of media, or you think of the movie Taken, and it's like they're kidnapped and chained, and that's not how it looks a lot of times. Like I said, my first exploiter was my manager at a department store. My second exploiter came off as more of a boyfriend, right? And then the third exploiter trafficker I worked for was creating that family atmosphere I always wanted. So these traffickers are looking to fill that void in your life, and they're really good at figuring that out. So we created a safe place. We created a bunch of different programs. We have a bunch of different initiatives. I'm currently in our low barrier drop-in center, which we have 2. We have one in Worcester, Massachusetts, and one in Baltimore, Maryland. So that is more crisis intervention, harm reduction, people who still may be experiencing homelessness, still in the life of prostitution or the sex trade, struggling with substance use. It's really more about meeting their basic needs and giving them the opportunity to take a chance or do something different. So if and when they do want services or they need support, we're here. We're open 365 days a year, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So people in the community, especially in Massachusetts, they know we're here specifically for people who have been impacted by the sex trade. And there's not a lot of services that are directly for that, right? Like I said, there's a lot of services for everything else, domestic violence, sexual assault. But when you're really looking at the sex trade as a whole, just trying to address that. And from Harbor, we have also created Jana's Place, which is quite a unique program. That is also in Worcester, Massachusetts. We're hoping to replicate that, hopefully in Western Massachusetts and Maryland, and, continue to grow down to Florida. But Jana's Place is a co-occurring enhanced residential treatment facility. So that means that it is for substance use, mental health, and specifically designed for female identifying people that have experienced the sex trade. So you have to hit all 3 of those markers to get in. We only have 16 beds, which is not enough. Our wait list is extremely long. And again, it's a very specialized program. We let people really be the drivers of their own recovery or their own treatment and give them the choices and autonomy back, because when you're in the life, a lot of those things are taken from you. So we also have a legal clinic, which is quite new. I think we've been operating our legal clinic for about 3 years now. So we have full-time managing staff attorney that helps with all sorts of different legal barriers. A lot of our participants have criminal legal issues. They have housing, they have family court, so all different aspects of the law. And then trying to work with, the certain states, and if there's, quarry relief or record relief, eviction ceilings, all those things, working with our participants.
Question
Yes.
for you. You have
Yeah.
a location here in Palm Beach, right?
Yes, as of 2026, this year. So we just got down. My co-executive director, Courtney Ross Escobar, is actually from Palm Beach originally. So her family's down there, and we just have been trying to expand our reach to try to get basically the whole East Coast, start up here and down. And I do a lot of work through Maine, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, all throughout New England. So it just made sense as we're expanding and growing, and
So let me ask you something, because we are Senior Care Made Simple. We provide resources. We work with the community. How does this affect the elderly community?
Sure. So I can specifically talk to Massachusetts because that's where basically I am. I can't really speak too much on what's going down in Florida, but here in Massachusetts, especially at our low barrier drop-in center, we see a lot of older women coming in. A lot of older women that are maybe in public housing, and struggling maybe with substance use or alcohol or just poor self-esteem, right? And wanting to feel loved and, have that connection with another human being. And I see a lot of younger men preying on these older women because they're getting their benefits, they have public housing, whatever it is, they're latching on to these older vulnerable women, and we see it all the time actually. I think the oldest participant we have downstairs right now is probably like 74. And I know a lot about her story, and this didn't start as, a 74-year-old. She's been, exploited, trafficked from teenage years. So it's just watching her move throughout the systems, and she never got the support or help she ever needed. So now, you're 74 years old and you still are so unsure, and, you don't really have any family, and you find this guy that, is giving you that attention that you've desired for so long. So it's really difficult because they just don't want to be alone. And it's like this person is.
Yeah, we've talked about loneliness before, about that. So let me ask you also, do you have like here in Florida, we have a lot of places where we take care of elderly people, or even at home, they want in-home health care. Horizon specializes in that. We provide elder care finders and all of this. Do you see that? Do you see, not with our company, of course, but do you see elder abuse in different communities?
All the time. Yes.
All the time.
My mother actually lives in public housing, senior public housing, and I see it in her building. I see it all throughout. All the time, unfortunately. Especially if they're vulnerable, like if they have some type of vulnerability, like these, I don't even want to call them guys. I want to call them predators, know who to look for. Same as traffickers, right? It's very similar mentality. It's a form of gender-based violence, right? That's what it comes down to. And they're just manipulating and using these older women to get what they want. I have seen some guys, put these women out on the block, right, to go do a date. If they both have substance use and maybe one of them is in withdrawal, they're both in withdrawal, they'll tell the woman, like, you got to go out there and make money for us. And they feel so guilty that they do it because they just want somebody to be there with them.
We have a lot of wealth here in Palm Beach County, as you probably know. And we had a client that lived in probably a $5-6 million home. There was 2 male living with her, between 55 and 60, both of them, right? Then got her but they weren't taking care of her. They were trying to basically take all her fortune from her. And she was scared. We were trying to provide some private duty for her. But she was so scared to have anybody come in the house and see what's really was going on. So we had to actually get a physician that would admit her. We called the ambulance, had her picked up, and had the doctor admit her for a few days, and then get her into a skilled nursing facility for 20 days while we're filing an emergency petition to get these people out of her house. So we were able to save this lady and life, and also save her state.
It's taboo. You don't talk about it, right? You don't say, well, I'm being trafficked or anything like that. How do we, in your experience, how do we see warning signs of elderly abuse or anybody being abused that's not verbal about it? How can you see the warning signs?
If they don't have control of their own finances, they're not making their own decisions, they seem very uneasy to make a decision against the partner or whoever is there with them. Again, I would say it's just a lack of like their self-worth too, or they're even embarrassed to talk about what's going on. You kind of have to be able to ask the right questions and try to gauge where they're at, especially with the older women we serve. They're just so closed off and don't really want to open up about a lot of things. And I think that's just instilled in an older generation. You don't want to talk about what's happening behind closed doors, make everything look pretty on the outside. So really just going in there, compassionate, understanding, put your biases aside, and just try to listen to them, and you're able to see some like signs, I guess you would say. Again, like not being in control of their finances. They're scared to leave. They're scared to go against this person. All those are very big warning signs. Especially if you see an older woman and a younger man, like what's going on here? What are you doing?
Right.
Especially in Florida too. A lot of retirees go to Florida, right? Especially from New England. A lot of people I know, they go to Florida to retire, right? And they're just trying to live their best lives, and these younger people will prey on that and try to fill that void. So especially somebody with means too. I know a lot of, just myself being in recovery, right? I know a lot of guys that will latch on to older women for that security. So again, that's another form of abuse too. So
What can we do here in Palm Beach to stop that? How can we become a voice to avoid this as a community?
I would guess just talking about it more. I don't know if like up here we have a lot of seniors centers, right? So a lot of people go to the senior centers during the day for activities and stuff like that. Doing groups at those, talking to the women about what's going on, what is financial abuse, what is exploitation, what are all these things, and really explaining it to them. Because again, for myself, I wasn't even able to put the language to it until I met another survivor. So just having somebody that's able to go in and talk it, like, I don't know, maybe at the club where they do their breakfast on Sunday or whatever, right? The coffee shops, just signage is super important, just having things hung up and people notice them. I notice in the airport when you see the human trafficking signs, those weren't always up before, right? So that's like even in hotels. Like I was in Maryland recently for work and I noticed right under the peephole, it said, if you are experiencing human trafficking or this or that, please call the National Human Trafficking Hotline. And I was like, wow, that sign right there might have saved my life like 15 years ago because I didn't know there was services available. So just finding out what services are available, seeing if there's somebody that may have a similar lived experience as the seniors you're serving as well, so they can relate on some type of level. I think that's super important. For me, it was, you can have any degree in the world. You could be a doctor, you could be a clinician, but for me, when I met somebody with a similar story as me, that's when I would start to open up and heal and really talk about what happened to me and stop blaming myself for everything that happened to me and really put the blame on who it belongs to, which are the buyers, the traffickers, the abusers, and start forgiving myself, give myself a little grace. I feel as women, we want to put on this, we've got this, we can do this, everything else. And, just being able to give yourself some grace and that's it.
Because we have a senior placement company as well called Elder Care Finders, is we get a lot of calls with people who are younger, like you said, maybe on middle 60, early 70s, who only can afford $900 a month for rent. Where are you going to go in Palm Beach? So those people are most vulnerable, right? Because they don't even know what group homes are. They don't know how to find a place for them to live. They can't afford assisted living. Sometimes they don't understand Medicaid because Medicaid here does give you an allowance for assisted living. They don't have any resources, and those are the things that really happen. So when they call us and say they need a place to live, they don't need assisted living. See, that's the problem. They don't need assisted living. They just need a place to live. I think those are the people who are more frail, and we don't know what to do with them.
It's really difficult because you can't really survive on Social Security right now alone, right? Like you said, if you're getting $900, $1,000 a month, there's no way you're surviving.
No way.
Palm Beach, Massachusetts, I think anywhere basically in the United States right now. And that's what's happening to our population up here, right? They're getting kicked out of places they've lived forever, right? We have a lot of developers coming in and like flipping the 3-deckers. We have a lot of 3-deckers in our city. So the 3-family houses, they're coming in and buying all these properties, redoing them, and then kicking out the tenants that have lived there for 40, 50 years, or like doubling up on the rent. So they're coming in, these big development companies, and just upping the rent to astronomically high prices where nobody can afford it. You can't find a studio for less than $1,500 a month. And if you're only bringing in maybe $1,000 on your Social Security, that's how are you, like, if you don't have a housing voucher, which takes forever, it's a little easier when you're in the 55 and older category to try to find it. But again, like I said, my mom's in that type of housing, and I see all sorts of bad things happening in her building. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's happening that's super concerning. So
let me ask you, how do you work? How does Exit work? Let's say I need you. I need your help. How do you work?
So we have a website, so you can reach out directly on our website. There's a contact thing, and it goes right to me and Courtney's email. Courtney Ross Escobar is the one who's located in Palm Beach. Well, she's actually located in Maryland, but she spends a lot of time between Palm Beach and Maryland. And so, again, reaching out on our website is the quickest and fastest way. I always have my work phone. Unfortunately, it's like attached to my hip. I have a little codependency issue with it, but my work phone's also associated with the National Human Trafficking Hotline. So it's like I want to be available for those phone calls, for those emails that are coming in. And again, maybe we're not the right people to help you, but maybe we're able to connect you to the right resource, or even just brainstorm or, bounce things off each other and have some ideas. Because, we might have had a similar experience up here or in Maryland or wherever, right, where we're able to, figure out, different resources or pathways.
So we don't see a lot of young people in our business here, like that. I mean, we see them, yes, taken advantage of. And the predators, you know who they are? They are the people they hire privately without an agency, without a background check, without any references at all, okay? And how do they get them? In Publix, I don't know if you know, but we have a supermarket here called Publix. And they take your cart. They help you get your groceries in your car, okay? So those people are predators. A lot of them are predators that takes your cart to your car. Oh, Mrs. So-and-so, would you like some help at home? It seems like, do you live alone? And they start the conversation from the time that they say, would you like me to help you? Take you things to your car? Sure, I would appreciate it. And they start a conversation. So, where do you live? Do you live alone? What? And then the conversation start. Oh, if you need any help, I'll be happy to help. Or my cousin is here from wherever, and I have family member that can help you. Those are one of the predators. Those are the Publix people that carries your luggage to the cars. So it's getting worse and worse and worse. That's what we see a lot here, those predators, not as much as the sexual thing when it comes to our business, but just that, senior abuse, more from the financial end of it. When you are in Palm Beach Island, especially, you see a lot of those women, they are under somebody. Do you know what I'm saying? You can tell they are being trafficked. But then what are you going to do? I mean, what are you going to do? Call the police?
No, you can call the national hotline.
But if they don't want to be rescued, I don't know. I mean, those are the things, Audra, that just confuses me. I mean, you on this beautiful, very high-end island, and they're walking around everywhere with those fake bags and all this outfit that I don't know where they get it from. Might as well just walk around naked. But that there's something. And then, like, how do you approach them? You're in a restaurant, a very, very expensive place, and there they are hanging out. And there's about 2 or 3 of them at a time.
It's very difficult to actually approach them, and it could be very dangerous as well. So
yeah.
For me, it's usually contacting law enforcement and letting them know. Unfortunately, with that, it's such a long process with law enforcement. It's not like they're going to go in immediately. It's like they're going to build a case. They're going to, especially when you're dealing with like Homeland or the FBI, it just moves very slow. But for me, I would never really approach them because you don't know who's watching or if you're gonna harm them. It could be very dangerous. And a lot of people, like I mentioned myself, like I didn't even know what I was in for. So a lot of these people believe it's their choice. These young women, they think it's a choice that they're in it, and you're kind of brainwashed when you're in that lifestyle. So they don't see a problem sometimes with it. Especially the younger girls, and what we're teaching our younger women and girls, especially in colleges and everything else, and talking about online exploitation and OnlyFans and all of that. Like I hear professors tell young women, this is a viable employment opportunity for you while you're in school. Just do OnlyFans. It's okay. It's online. It's safe. No, it's not. It's not
No,
safe. And those
no.
images follow you for the rest of your life. I know, trust me. And there was no OnlyFans back then, and you can still find pictures of me online. And it's I have a 16-year-old son. It's like I don't ever want him to stumble across that on the internet. So it's really disheartening when we're telling young girls like this, pushing them into this industry just because our society as a whole is not the best, right? That's not what we should be telling our young women and girls. We should be uplifting them, so it's not just their bodies, their only worth, right? Like we're going backwards if we're doing that, I think. So
I like what you said about the community, because we represent a couple of country clubs. We work with country clubs, and that's never been a topic about elderly abuse or exploitations. Now, some of these people that are in country clubs are single women that their husband have passed, and they're enduring who knows what. But they're never going to say anything. So the idea of going onto these country clubs and talking about this, I really like that. Providing resources, answering questions, and you can contact this person that can help you with. So I like the fact that you're creating a company, or you have a company that is working on all of this. And, it's been very prominent in the news and social media and stuff about abuse and all this stuff. But I don't think it's stopped. I think it's an ongoing thing. What's your expert opinion on that?
Oh, it's not. I think it's speeding up, if anything. I think exploitation,
Agreed.
trafficking of seniors all the way down to our youngest children. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Think about, you can sell a woman or a person over and over and over again, right? You can only sell one gun, one bag of drugs, whatever it is, right? It's like we're indisposable. And these guys, they know that too. A lot of the traffickers I know from up north used to be drug dealers, and then they switched because they were getting in trouble for selling drugs. So they're like, oh, I'll just sell these women who are addicted to drugs, right? So now it's like a win-win for both of them. I'm selling them the drugs and taking all the money from, them engaging in prostitution. And it's just crazy how they operate. And again, a lot of people involved in prostitution or trafficking, they'll never come forward and talk about it. Like even
Right.
it's just so, for me, I've been very public with my story, but it still haunts me. It's like, how do you have a normal relationship after you've been through that? How do you talk to somebody and they're like, where you been? Tell me a little bit about your life story. Or even explaining the work I do. They're like, oh, how'd you get into that? And I'm like, well, sit down, because this is a long story, right? I'm like, it's just hard. It's really hard to talk about. Like, I'm at the dog park or I'm at the grocery store, and you just spark up a conversation. They're like, "What do you do for work?" And I'm like, "Here we go. I'm gonna have to explain this now." And for me, it's become easier, but it's still like you can see it on people's faces when I share that. They're like, "Oh wow," like a little taken aback. They're like, and I'm like, I promise I'm not scary. I'm not going to hurt you. And I'm not like a fragile little butterfly either, right? Like I'm a survivor. We're overcomers. So it's like, I want to talk about it. So then other women, especially even our older women, feel comfortable talking about some of the things that happen to them. Because again, for me, I was like, keep everything inside, hide it, make sure I look good on the outside. But that just left me really depressed and scarred and lonely. And, I don't know, I've seen thousands of women own their stories and come to their power and find their purpose in their life. And it's just so incredible when you can have that connection with another survivor and they come to terms. And it's like, I'm not the dirty person. I'm not disgusting. I'm not all these awful names I call myself, right? I had, a crappy upbringing. I had lots of vulnerabilities. People preyed on that. And it's not, I play a part in everything I did, right? But it's not my fault. And it reminded everybody that, because
Right.
again, I feel like women, especially, we beat ourselves up too much. So it's like, stop doing that, and, really look at who's driving the sex trade. Why do people think it's okay to buy other human beings or take advantage of our senior citizens or our young folks? Why do people think that's okay? Why aren't they held accountable? Why aren't they listed in public? I know, especially for sex buyers, that's like their biggest fear, is they don't want to be outed. Nobody wants to be outed, even if you're being prostituted, right? You don't want that in the paper, but really holding them accountable, so then it changes how the community is viewing this issue and how we perceive like this as a whole, like society as a whole, the sex trade. I think buyer education for older folks of what's going on. We'd only started talking about human trafficking like in the last like 15 years, right? So the
Yeah.
domestic violence world, they're the ones that really like spearheaded this, right? And if you look at how DV like grew through the 90s and 2000s, and how we take that very
Right.
seriously now, like
Right.
the anti-trafficking is right behind it, and we're following right in their steps. And domestic violence providers, sexual assault providers, they've been dealing with human trafficking all these years, but now there's just a different sector focusing on that because of how much of a problem it is.
So you're a pioneer. I have to commend you on what you're doing. I mean, you're changing one person at a time. And we want to do the same. That's the purpose of this podcast, to provide resources, to be a change in the community. Really commend you on what you're doing. If you don't mind repeating how they can contact you and your website for our listeners, that would be great.
Yep, it's www.safeexitinitiative.org. So even if we're on all social medias as well, so if you just look up Safe Exit Initiative, you will find us. If you look up my name, I'm pretty sure I'm the only Audra Doody. I've yet to find another one. So that also is associated. Like if you just Google my name, you're going to be able to find Safe Exit. You're going to be able to find our contact information. And again, just, go to our website. It's very informative. We have all the different programs listed, contact information, and, what we're doing. There's a big part about Palm Beach and how we're expanding there. Our Waypoint program, again, our community case management, which we do in Baltimore and Massachusetts. And we've seen a lot of successful stories from that peer mentorship role. So, as we're growing, there's definitely going to be more events, but I would reach out on our website and see what you can do to support us. We do an annual fundraiser every year. Right now, we're only doing in Massachusetts, but I'm assuming as we grow, we're going to be doing one in each location. And for our annual fundraiser, it's not like a normal gala. We try to do like an art exhibit or an immersive storytelling. So this year's is called After the Exit, and it talks about, you kind of follow 4 different survivors' stories. And, it's like, okay, so you got this woman out of human trafficking. Now what, right? It's like they have so many different barriers people don't even think about, even from just getting a physical ID. It's like, something like that can be so challenging if you don't have your birth certificate, you're born in a different country or whatever, right? There's so many different things. And everybody's like, why don't you just leave? And it's like, if it was just that simple, right? So really trying to let
Right.
walk in our shoes and see what it's like. Like, I think that is so important for the general community that maybe never been impacted by this, maybe doesn't know anybody. So they really understand all the layers that people have to go through to actually get out and succeed.
Well, I want you to know one thing. You should be very proud of yourself because you had a very hard lesson to learn. And you're taking this lesson that you have learned to help other people. And that was your calling.
Mhm.
And sometimes the streets is the best way to learn how we're going to have a better life and help others. So don't ever feel ashamed of sharing your information, sharing your past, because we all had one, right? All of us, we had to go through a lot of things in our life to be the people that we are today. So be proud of yourself and be proud of the work that you have done.
Thank you.
So I thank you very much for being in the show. I am looking forward to meeting you in personally, hopefully.
Yes.
And also meet your partner.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to help you if I can over here in Florida. And all of Audra's information will be down on the show notes.
And I would love to come and maybe talk to your seniors one day too. I think that would be a great opportunity for everybody to.
Absolutely. Just let us know when you're down here.
All right. I will.
And we'll make that happen.
Awesome.
Thanks everybody for listening. If anyone out there would like to share your experience, share information that can help any one of our listeners, please email us at seniorcaremadesimple@gmail.com, seniorcaremadesimple@gmail.com. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Senior Care Made Simple, an elder care podcast, has been brought to you by Horizon Care Services, your private duty choice in home care in South Florida. For more information on acquiring home care assistance, visit horizoncareservices.com.